Hello. Welcome to the show. How's everybody doing? Just got quite a few things to talk about today. And again, the show is going to be kind of, it's complete podcast form now. That's why you see the number 70 in the title there, the thumbnail. It's episode number 70 of the channel. And again, there'll be several different topics we're going to talk about today. So if you're interested in any of the different topics, once I'm done here, I will put chapter notifications down below. Got a little cup of coffee. It's decaf. It's for a specific reason. We'll get into that later. But again, just a podcast, something a little different than a lot of the other camera channels are doing right now. All podcasts are getting huge, and there's a podcast about pretty much everything. And I would say that like somebody like David Osler probably does like a podcast, but he sticks to pretty much Sony stuff, and I want to kind of do just about everything. So welcome to the show. Welcome to episode number 70. Now, this isn't technically episode number 70, but this is my 70th video. And, I want to kind of do it this way. So just a quick second here. Just had to make a quick adjustment. So let's get into this. Sony A7 IV versus Canon R6. I think this is a much closer comparison than the Panasonic S5. Let me just check something real quick. Nope, it is not working. I have a second camera set up, but it's not working. I don't know why. I have to kind of play with that a little bit later and figure out why my Panasonic S5 isn't working with the HDMI switcher. I'm kind of hoping that my fourth one will work because I'm going to get into something a little bit later. But I think this is a much closer comparison. However, Canon and Sony took kind of the worst of the Panasonic S5 and the worst of the Canon and kind of put it all together into one. Just a second, I got some notes. That's what you get when you're shooting live. So what I mean by that is, the cropped 4K out of the Panasonic S5, but the price of the Canon R6. I think right from the start, the Canon R6 was overpriced, and they have not come down on this overpricing yet. However, I think Canon R6 is probably the best camera out of all of them. You get all the features that you want right from the start. And, the full frame 4K 60, there is a slight crop, I think, in 4K 60, like a 1.3 or something like that, or 1.2. It's not much. It's not nearly as much as the Sony A7 IV. But I think these cameras, body alone, should be in the $2,000 range. I think maximum, these things should be about $2,100, $2,200 max. Like that, I think that is pushing overpriced, but they're $2,500, so I think they're extremely overpriced, in my personal opinion. So let's get into some of the things I'm going to talk about here today. Well, we talk about the price. $2,500. They're both the same price. $24.98, $24.99. You get $1 discount on the Sony. Neither one of them are in stock, obviously. Kind of a bummer that the R6 isn't in stock, but it has been in stock. It's just recently kind of come out of stock. This global chip shortage and all that crap and supply chain issues, they're affecting everything right now. So you're just going to have to deal with it. It's the way it is. I think they're overpriced. We talked about that. Autofocus system, I think. Autofocus system, these two keep each other out. I really do. I think there's probably going to be several videos on it coming up in the next. Once people get their hands on the A7 IV, people are going to compare these cameras with each other. And to be honest with you, like, if you go to a camera channel that talks mainly about Sony cameras, they'll probably show you the Sony one's better. If you go to a camera that talks mainly about Canon cameras, they'll probably show you the Canon camera is better. I don't think you can go wrong when it comes to autofocus in either one of these cameras. I think they're about the same. Features. You got 10-bit video on both of these things. Let's go down to the specs for a little bit. I'm talking video specs. I don't really care too much about the photography aspect of it. But you got 422 10-bit up to 60 FPS. There's not as many video features on this. The Sony is definitely more feature rich, but for the Canon, it's all there. You know what I mean? It's all there. The higher bit rate on this one, on the Canon and 10-bit video, 4K up to 60, up to 340 megabits per second, where the Sony is only up to 200 megabits per second. It's not going to be that big of a difference. Doesn't seem like there's 4K 30 and 10-bit, 422 10-bit in the Sony, which there is in the Canon. Hit or miss. I'm not really gonna. It's apples to oranges here. It's you do have the 29-minute and 59-second record limit in the Canon, so that's about one major difference when it comes to video features. But both have fully articulated screen, both have great battery life, both have great image quality, full frame sensor. You really can't go wrong with either one of these cameras as far as spec. Obviously, I don't have either one of these cameras to show, but I've used Sony cameras quite a bit, extensively. I have two of them right here. I got a A7C. I got a Sony ZV-E10. And I've had Canon RP and a couple other Canon DSLRs back in the day. So now to the thing that I think that separates these cameras. Lenses separate these cameras significantly. The fact that there are only, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, right now, there are two third-party lenses for Canon RF. Both from Samyang. One's an 85mm 1.4, and the other is a 14mm 2.8. Granted, they have actually stopped manufacturing those lenses. They do not make those lenses anymore, but you can still get them. You can still find them. They're the Canon, the 14mm 2.8. Matter of fact, I would love to have the 14mm 2.8 with the Canon R6. I think that'd be a nice little combo. I've had both of those lenses. There's a Sony version of that, and there's a Canon version of that. The Canon version, the RF version, is obviously it's a much newer design. It is completely silent autofocus, where the Sony version, you can hear it kind of grinding in there a little bit. It's faint, but you can hear it. And if you have a decent microphone on top, you're going to be able to definitely hear it in the microphone. That lens, the 85mm, is also for the Sony as well. You can get it for the Sony. But when it comes to third-party lenses, and the reason I like third-party lenses is, I say this in probably every damn video that I make, it is, say you need a 24mm lens. And I'm going with 24 because it's going to hurt Canon a little bit right now. If you need a 24mm lens right now and you have Sony system or Canon RF system, Canon doesn't have one at all currently, other than if you want to get like the 24 to 70 F2.8, you could do that. But again, that's like a $2,300-$2,400 lens. Not everybody's going to want to spend that. So maybe, I'm not going to use the 24mm all that much, but I need one for a specific job. There are probably 10 or 12 different 24mm you can choose from when it comes to the Sony system. You've got 24mm 2.8 from Tamron. You got 24mm 2.8 G lens right here that's on the compact lens. You've got the 24mm 1.4. You've got that's the G Master lens. Sigma makes a couple of them: 24mm 3.5, a 24mm 1.4. Samyang makes a couple of them: a 24 1.8 and a 24 2.8. I mean, there's just an abundance of 24mm lenses of all prices and meets every budget you could imagine. So if you're in the market for a 24mm lens and you've got a Sony system, you're all set. If you're in the market for a 24mm lens and you have a Canon camera, you're gonna have to get an adapter. That's literally your only option, is to buy an adapter and adapt something to it. Now there are plenty of EF 24mm lenses options to go with, but then you've got to buy the adapter separately, or you know that's going to add another 1.25 inches onto the length of your camera, and maybe you don't want that. So currently there is no 24mm option in the RF. I do think the RF cameras are, the lens lineup is plenty robust at this point, being that the lens system is only 3 years old at this point. 2 years old, 3 years old, something like that. But it's still behind Sony in many ways. So that is I think your most distinguishing difference between the two cameras is your lens lineup. The fact that you've got, I would really love to see Sigma and even Tamron, because Tamron used to make EF lenses. I would love to see Tamron make RF lenses. People don't want I don't really want to adapt lenses. I think that currently the system, these developers, third-party camera lens developers, are thinking, well, you can just adapt our old lenses. I don't want to do that. I want new lenses. That's just the way it is. The last thing I want to talk about, I was going to go into menu, but I haven't used the new Sony menu system. I don't necessarily have any issues with the old menu system. I'm perfectly fine with it. But there is a new menu system in there. But anyways, I want to get into stabilization, and the Canon R6 has some of the best stabilization in the business. They're probably the best in the full frame market. Maybe something like the S1H competes really well with it, but I think for the most part, the Canon R6 is probably the best stabilization out there. I would love to have the Canon R6. To be honest with you, being what these two prices are, and I love Sony cameras, if I was going to buy one of these two cameras, I would probably buy the Canon R6 over the A7 IV for a couple of reasons. I really like that 14mm Samyang lens. I like it better than the Sony version. That's one major reason I would buy it. And the stabilization is much better. Plus, you get the full frame 4K 60. Yeah, there is a slight crop, but it's nothing compared to the Sony's, APS-C crop. So it's just kind of interesting, I think. I don't know that Sony put that crop in there and still decided to price it as high as they did. Again, not a lot of people are going to use 4K 60. That's just the way it is. I do think some people will use it. I did miss something down here. So this has got all eye, where I don't believe the Canon does. At least it doesn't show on here that it has all eye. I'm pretty sure that it does, though. I think there's a lot of specs that aren't showing here when it comes to the R6. I think if you're just starting out, I think the Canon R6 is going to be an easier camera to work with. That's not to say that Sony's is going to be hard to work with. I mean, I could definitely figure it out. I'm just saying, I think that it's going to be a little bit more straightforward when it comes to the specs, I think. Yeah. All right. This coming week, for Micro Four Thirds owners, this is a big deal, folks. This right here, because I kind of expected Micro Four Thirds would just go away. After Panasonic announced that they were going to go into full frame, I kind of figured, like, okay, well, they're going full frame now. They're going to neglect their Micro Four Thirds system. And I thought that for many reasons. One, because the camera industry was kind of in the process of dying. It'll never die completely, but I mean, the lower level cameras, I have a hard time seeing them stick around for much longer. As these things get better and better, I have a hard time seeing, cheaper cameras kind of last. Most of the people watching this video, myself included, know that you'll never be able to get what you out of this what you can out of this. But with that being said, the majority of people are using social media that they use with this to check their photography. So when it comes to that, the majority of people are watching videos on their phone. The majority of people are looking at photos on their phone, their Instagram and YouTube. So if you take a photo with this and upload it to Instagram, you can edit it right here on the phone. You do everything right here on the phone. Just it's convenient. And the only place anybody's ever looking at it is on Instagram. That's perfectly fine. You don't need this. So when it comes to that, I think a lot of these smaller cameras are going to just kind of die out. But I don't think I'm entirely wrong with that. Still, when it comes to Micro Four Thirds, both of these cameras this week are going to come out, and they're going to be flagships for the respective systems. I don't think you're ever going to see a replacement to the G100 or the G95 ever again. I really honestly don't. I won't be surprised if you don't. I don't think you'll ever see a LX10 replacement. They're 1-inch. So the LX100 replacement, they are the LX100 Mark II. But I don't think you'll ever see an LX100 Mark III. Matter of fact, the LX100 Mark II is a camera I'd really like to have. If it had USB Type-C charging, it doesn't. So this coming week, October 27th, so that'll be Wednesday. Micro Four Thirds had a hard year. Everybody had a hard year in 2020, even into 2020, with little announcements and many doubts. But both companies will have major announcements on October 17th, but it's the 27th. Panasonic Japan announced it will celebrate the 20th anniversary on October 27th. And there is a chance we might get some more info about the GH6. I don't think this GH6 is going to get announced that day, unfortunately. I think what we're going to get is some information spec-wise on the camera. I think we're going to get another little Easter egg. Potentially something along the lines of this came out September 12th, but a hybrid autofocus system. Panasonic expected some more details about this camera in autumn. So that's what I think what you're seeing is we're going to see some sort of hybrid autofocus system. Q1 2022, that's where I saw that. So I think you'll see the camera actually released in 2022, not this year like they originally said. And we're going to get some sort of hybrid autofocus. What does that mean? Well, what I think we're going to see is you're still going to see some sort of contrast detect autofocus system on it, but you're also going to see some kind of the hell just happened? No, there we go. I think you're also going to see some sort of phase detect autofocus on there too. Maybe certain points are autofocus or contrast, and certain points are phase detect. Something along those lines. And I think that's quite interesting to me, to be honest with you. One major thing that has held Canon or Panasonic back over the years is their autofocus system. There's no denying that. I don't believe it's nearly as bad as everybody says it is, but it's not as good as Canon and Sony. So when you compare the two, you're like, well, it's not as good. But it's plenty good. It's perfectly fine. Especially, I mean, if you're vlogging or doing some sort of studio work or something like that, it's perfectly fine. Because if you're not moving in the frame very much, or maybe just back and forth like this, it's going to be plenty. If you're vlogging where the camera is just at a certain length all the time, it's fine. Perfectly fine. If you are filming somebody who's walking and they're constantly speeding up and slowing down or something like that, and you're constantly in and out of out of an area, maybe, yeah, you probably will have some slight issues occasionally. But I think the autofocus system is perfectly fine in Panasonic cameras. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's not as bad as everybody says. But if they improve on it and make this some sort of hybrid autofocus system, this could be a game changer for the Panasonic system. And if they put this in future cameras as well, it could be a much bigger deal. Also, we're going to get something on the OM Digital as well. Teaser for the new WOW camera launched in early 2022. You would think that the 27th will be kind of a bigger day. It seems like it's going to be a really big day, but it's probably not all. It's just probably going to be announcements. I don't think we're going to see any new cameras that day. Of course, I will have some videos and we'll discuss it on that day for sure. And probably we'll be discussing it in videos between now and then. But I think what you're going to see here is just some announcements and no actual. Maybe you'll get to see the actual GH6, or maybe actually get to see what the whatever this OM Digital camera is going to be. Be kind of cool. All right, so Nello X3K Plus is the first 8K action camera, and it's cheaper than the GoPro. GoPro and DJI just got some new competition. So the GoPro Hero 10 just came out a month ago, a few weeks ago. I just got it a few weeks ago, and it maxes out at 5.3K, up to 60 frames per second. The rumor on the street is the new DJI Action 2 is going to max out at 4K and 120 frames per second. And then here this camera is. Now, there are a bunch of cheap Chinese manufacturers that make action cameras. But this is the first one with 8K apparently. And I've used a couple of them, and they don't really compare to the DJIs or the GoPros of the world. Anyways, let's read this. No classic camera escapes resolution wars. Now things are truly hotted up in the world of action cameras as Chinese manufacturer Nello announces the X3K Plus, the first action camera to be capable of shooting 8K video. It sports a Sony CMOS sensor with an effective resolution of 64 megapixels for stills and uses the Umbrella H22 chipset for processing. Users have a number of video resolution options. You can shoot 4K up to 60p, 6K up to 30p, or the headline figures of 8K up to 15p. Well, it's not really an 8K camera if it only shoots 15 frames per second, because that's unusable. That is one of the things that I also, when Sony announced the A7 IV as well, they announced that it would live stream in 4K. It live streams only at 15 frames per second in 4K. That is like a slideshow. I'm going to kind of sound a little bit like a snob here, but I don't care. I can tell when specifically YouTubers shoot with Sony cameras and they shoot in 24 frames per second. Because if you're doing a talking head like this, I don't believe you should be shooting in 24 frames per second. Because these cameras are not meant to shoot 24 frames per second, as far as I'm concerned. They are photography cameras. If you had a dedicated video camera, maybe we're talking here. But I don't think these cameras were necessarily meant to shoot 24 frames per second, because like when I watch somebody who shoots in 24 FPS and I can tell and I know they're shooting in 24 FPS, the background is all nice and crisp and clean, and their face is like I can see the blur, the motion as it's moving around, because it's not shooting fast enough. If you're shooting some sort of cinematic stuff, whatever you got to do. But I think when you're shooting 20, I think if you got a camera that can shoot 60 FPS, you should shoot 60 FPS. Anything more than that, is going to be distorted. So there's no point. But 60 at least will record audio properly and stuff like that. Most cameras, if you shoot your videos 120 frames per second, yeah, it might be nice and smooth, but it's going to be slow motion. To talk like this. But anyways, that's what it looks like right there. Kind of looks like a GoPro knockoff with no design to it, I guess. As pretty much required a serious action camera these days, the Nella X3K Plus has a dual screen, a 2-inch touchscreen on the rear, and a 1.3-inch screen on the front. For selfie shooting, it comes equipped with a hyper-smooth stabilization system, which the makers say is a 6-axis system designed to significantly combat camera shake. The camera is also waterproof down to 10 meters and fields a wide-angle lens of 150 degrees field of view. So far, action camera where the X3K Plus sets itself apart is the price, with a recommended retail price of 104 euros or 121 US dollars, or about 88 pounds, which is considerably more affordable than both the GoPro Hero 9 and the DJI Osmo Action, and qualify it as one of the best budget action cameras around. I don't know exactly when this will be available. But it is kind of interesting to me. I'm going to probably look it up. And see if I can actually purchase this thing and go use it. So 8K action camera, the first one. Now we've got 8K smartphones now. There's a couple out in China or Japan that have 8K, as well as the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra has 8K video. It's not very good, but hey, we're getting there. So a couple of these smaller sensors are capable of doing the 8K. Whether or not it looks any better than 4K. If you're looking at watching these videos on a screen, you're not going to be able, on a phone. Honestly, you're probably not going to be able to tell the difference, much of a difference between 1080p and 4K or 8K. It doesn't really matter. And this isn't an 8K screen, so even if it says you're watching an 8K, you're not. All right, so something I want to talk about the Smallrig cages. I've got the new Smallrig cage for the ZV-E10 here. You can pick it up on Amazon now for $50. It's not in stock. I actually did order this from Smallrig directly. It came a week or two ago. And I think this is something that is almost a must-have for this camera. This is a must-have piece of equipment for this camera. I also have it for the A7C here. It's basically the same thing. It extends the grip. It makes it feel like really comfortable to hold now. Where two major gripes I have with both of these cameras is the grip that they have on them. It's terrible. It's uncomfortable to hold. They're just not very good grips. They're just not. And I think these are definitely essential. I have smaller grips for every camera. Here's the one for the S5, which I've got the grip extension Smallrig thing on there right now, which I really like. But I've got the Smallrig cage for this. Every camera that I buy the Smallrig cage for. I wish I could buy one for the HC-X2000 here, but they just don't make one. Why do I buy these grips? Well, I don't rig these cameras out typically. I like to have these grips because I spend a lot of money on these things and I want to be able to protect them. Another thing is a lot of these cameras don't have like these stupid little loops right here. These stupid little loops. I freaking hate these things. Because I like to use the Peak Design camera straps, so the anchors. And I really like the fact that these come with the loops to be able to hold the Peak Design anchors. The ZV-E10 does have these. This is one of the things I said in the review that I really liked. I do like that a lot. But this also comes with the area for me to be able to hook up the loops. And just the fact that the grip is much deeper now. It's more comfortable than any of the like old A6000 series cameras. Maybe not the 6600. That's probably a lot more comfortable, but I just like the way these things, this kind of feels now. And this is actually one of the kind of, I mean, it's a smaller reason, but it's one of the reasons why I didn't decide to go with the A7 Mark IV, because this camera does really kind of everything that I want it to do. I've got a camera that my A7 or my Panasonic S5 that shoots, 10-bit video and stuff like that. So if I need to do something like where I need to do some heavy color grading, I've got that camera for that, and it's perfectly fine. And if I want something that's just going to be just my autofocus powerhouse, I've got this. I do want to get the 24-70 Sigma lens for this. That'll probably be one of my next purchases in the very near future. But yeah, you can pick this up for $49.99, $90, and I think it's a must-have for the camera. There's a couple of different ones. You can get one without the grip. I don't see the point in this. Moving on. You can do a grip extension, which I do like this one because it's flush with the camera body itself. Oh, I'm not. This is what I'm talking about. It's flush with the camera body itself. Kind of like how I have, it's like very few of them are actually really flush with the camera. I think that more of them should be. You kind of have to open that thing up in order to remove the battery, which is kind of weird. But I guess the camera is pretty small, so. And here's the one for the A7C. You see I purchased this from Amazon, and it's $69. I don't think I paid that much for it. I think I got it on sale. Sometimes you see these on sale. And when they have sales on Amazon, you should jump on them because they're huge sales usually. I think I paid like $30-something for this. Yeah, you got to jump on it if you see the sale. The last thing I want to talk about is this. This is something that is kind of, it's camera related because a cinematographer was shot on set. And it's kind of near and dear to me because I'm an avid gun rights supporter, avid gun, a user. I actually work at a gun manufacturer. I've been drinking out of this coffee cup for, specifically because I work for Sig Sauer, and this is no representative of them whatsoever. It's just a job to me. And I'm not really speaking on their behalf in any way, shape, or form. What I don't understand about this whole situation is why there was a live gun in general on the set. There's no, gun use should be used by very experienced people in general. There should be very experienced people on the set, period, when there's guns in use. This Hannah Gutierrez Reed was a very inexperienced 24-year-old. Apparently handed a loaded gun to an 11-year-old at one point. And I can't really say much about that. I was holding guns when I was 11 years old. And I don't want to get political on this because that's something totally different. Politics with that, and a lot of people from different countries that might be watching this show, that I'm really getting more into the gun safety on this, and the fact that a cinematographer was shot and killed on set. It's just kind of a sad situation here that happened, and I think that I really hope that it's not trying to push some sort of agenda, but at the same time, I also kind of think that's probably what's going on down rather than anything else. This is a terrible thing, but at the same time, like, it should have never happened. There should have never been live rounds on the set. There should have never been a gun with a firing pin in it. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to me. A lot of things about this don't really make sense to me, but I don't really want to get too far into it. This is just kind of a sad thing that happened. And now we have a deceased cinematographer, which is kind of bad. But anyways, the last thing I want to get into before we go is kind of my new setup a little bit that I've got happening here. And I'm going to take this over to, I got another HDMI cable somewhere around here. And I want to kind of give you a bird's eye view of what's going down here. Now, I don't know if this is going to work because for some reason my other camera isn't working. Okay. Yep, it is working. Cool. So if you see me off in the distance here, I'm actually watching. That's my TV over there. But here we've got the Panasonic S5. Here we've got the Sony or the Panasonic HC-X2000. We've got my switcher over here. Got the laptop set up. I've got another setup here so I can put my another camera angle. When you did the unboxing the other day, you saw the camera angle. Up here, I've got another kind of connection here with an overhead mic, which is not currently in operation, but I want to start doing ones. And then over here, I'll show you, talk to you in a minute. I got a USB mic over here. I got my monitor here so I can see the chat. And I've got my Mac Mini that actually runs the whole thing. So there's my bird's eye view. Everything is all set up ready for me to just be able to. That's why I'm doing these like live now, because I bought the switcher thing. So it's just been really, really nice to have all this stuff. I've been kind of blessed, and I'm going to keep going with this. I really enjoy what I'm doing. Making all these videos on cameras and being able to talk with good people about cameras, and it's just something I enjoy. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A couple different topics we got to talk about tonight. And I'm going to go through just here once I'm done here and put all the timestamps down at the bottom so you don't have to wade through all the nonsense that I talked through some of these videos. And you just get to where you want to get to. And it'll be more beneficial to my viewers as well. So anyways, hope you guys have the great rest of your weekend or whatever's left of it. And have a great week. We got some good information coming out, good things coming out this week. So there'll be a lot of good videos coming. And hopefully we'll have some good conversations. And I'm thankful you guys came in, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.